Welcome to the Reaching Eden podcast. This is a podcast from the development team behind Gears of Eden, an indie space adventure game in early development. In today's podcast, we're going to be catching you up with the progress of our game, but also talk about the things that inspire us creatively and hopefully provide you with some inspiration in the pursuit of your own goals. Then we'll wrap it up by discussing the games we've played this week. This is our very first podcast, guys, and we're excited. We hope you enjoy the show and are willing to give us feedback to help us improve and make this a show we can all enjoy. Today with us, we have Sledge, our creative director.
Hello.
And we also have Eric, who's the lead writer for the game.
Hi.
And rounding out the cast is the host, me, Michael, and I help manage the project. In our future podcast, we hope to bring the other team members so we can introduce them and find out more about their areas of specialty. So let's start off with Gears of Eden. It just started its alpha testing phase within the group. Sledge, do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so we've started our internal alpha test, and when we get through that, we'll be ready to share it publicly. And it's been really exciting. We've all been sort of in the game playing it this last week, and we're finding lots of things that we need to do to improve the game and to fix some bugs and things like that. But it's really great just to sort of dive into it and see the mechanics working and see it sort of coming together. And we have this great data collection system that we can look and see exactly what each of us are doing in the game. So how much time we're spending in it, and what sort of resources we're picking up and what we're crafting. And so really looking forward to the next week or two where we get some new components into the game. Like, we're working on the new drill interface right now, and that's going to just make the game feel so much better and so much more complete because we've had this placeholder in there for a while. So really excited to be at this early sort of alpha testing phase, and looking forward to being able to roll that out to some of our early access supporters and some of our newsletter subscribers soon.
Yeah. And it was interesting going through the process right now, because we've done builds before, where we were just kind of having to test out new functions that we were introducing to the game as we were basically getting through our documents. First making the rover, introducing the drill system, and then introducing the resource node system and all that kind of stuff. But this is the very first time we've actually basically had all these gameplay functionalities put together and finally kind of make it so it's an actual game. And I don't know about you guys, but for me personally, it was weird playing the first initial builds and just literally basically testing just one function compared to now.
Yeah, it's still, there's still not a lot of gameplay value in it, but I think that, that all the small pieces that we have been working on, at least they're now working together. And so you can set some very small goals for yourself and try to achieve them, which is kind of cool. And I think also just that we're, sort of all getting involved in it together. That's been really great.
Yeah. So how are you guys' feelings about it so far? Are you still in shock and awe? Cause that's kind of what I was when I was first playing it earlier.
Edit this out, but isn't shock and awe a war term?
I guess. Yes. Do you want me to use a better one?
Okay.
What was it? What was I saying?
No, it's fine. I was just I was like, whoa, okay.
Okay. All right. I'll just say it again.
No, you're fine.
So,
you're totally fine.
No. I sound like a fool now. Literally going to be the first comment's going to be, that guy say...
Oh, there you go.
Right?
Shock and awe.
Did that guy use shock and awe? He knows that's a war term, right? No. So what was your guys' where are you guys' reaction to the game right now? Because I'm in awe still playing the game.
I'm pretty shocked over it, honestly.
Using shock
but I have having a lot of fun with it, because you're right, it's been singular functions that we've been messing with for so long, and now it's all coming together into this thing that's there's not a whole lot to do. You're basically just driving around and exploring and making fuel cells for yourself so you can get around farther at night, but it's weirdly fun. It's just, I can see this becoming something really great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sledge, how are you feeling about it right now?
I'm feeling really good about the game right now. It's really great looking back and seeing the progress we've made. We've also have, you guys haven't seen this stuff yet, but the art team are working on some new assets that will be in the game as well. And these are just small things like some crates and containers, but more and more we're trying to fill up the game so it doesn't feel so empty. So the more and more I see those assets coming down the pipeline and getting closer to being implemented in the game, that gets me excited as well. So it's really great to see things coming together. And, I know that, we still have a few things that, no one has seen yet that we're going to be able to sneak into this first alpha. So, getting in now and doing some play testing is great. And I'm really excited that we're, looking ahead to getting some dialogue nailed down for the alpha as well. And, Eric can probably talk a little bit about that process. But, we have some of it that's in the alpha right now that we're playing, and it's more annoying than anything because we have like one or two phrases that just pop up all the time.
I'll say it gets especially bad when you flip and you get stuck on an object because all it does is it goes between those two lines back and forth, and you feel helpless and you feel like it's punishing you for being so bad that you got stuck in a charging station.
And this is one of the things that like we need to have the alpha for, because I don't think prior to this we realized how necessary it was to have like a time limit on when phrases could happen again. Like, I don't think either of these phrases would be as bad as they are if we weren't hearing them every single time you like stop for a second. Like if you heard it and then like an hour later you heard it again, it's not the worst thing in the world.
And we have, I don't know if you guys have found this yet, but we have like the little debug menu since we're on, admins, and we can actually go in and turn off that dialogue system, which I do now when I'm playing. But, when we release a public alpha, we're, not everyone's going to have the ability to do that. So we want to make sure that that's addressed before we put it out.
Yeah, and I'll say you guys are lucky that you guys don't have to do the first initial thing, because there are those little things that we just need to work on. Like, for example, the first thing, if you guys were to open this alpha as it is right now, you would have to take your headphones off because the music is a little loud. And and since we're still trying to work on the functionality a little bit, it's tough to turn the volume down. It's almost impossible, to turn the volume down.
It is impossible to turn on the volume. There's no setting for that yet.
Exactly. So it's those little things that, since we haven't done this before necessarily, it's kind of those those like learning mistakes that you just got to make.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you do learn by making mistakes, and so I think the point for us is to like get things together and get them out and try them and test them, and not be afraid to make mistakes, because that's how we're going to learn. And yeah, so I think we're doing a good job at making mistakes and learning from them and moving on.
Yeah, that's great. So that's what's going on with the Gears development this week. Let's take a step back now and talk about a broader view, inspiration. So I've asked the guys here to give an example from their own lives of things from either entertainment, news, internet, really anything that does simply one thing: inspire. This is to give you guys an idea of how we fuel our creativity. Sledge, what's your inspiration for this week?
This week, my inspiration, I've got a couple things. The first bit of inspiration comes from the space subreddit, and I found an article in there that talked about this new planetary object that's sort of been theorized and submitted as a concept, and it's called a synestia. I don't know if that's how anyone pronounces it or not.
Yeah, it's also known as the big donut hole, right? Or yeah,
the big donut, the big space donut. So yeah. So basically, anything space related is I'm interested in, and I find it inspiring. And especially as we're working on this game that's set in deep space, we're always looking for ideas and inspiration that we can use when we're creating this world. So the synestia is sort of this planetary object that is created when two planet objects collide with one another. So the force and the angular momentum come together and create so much energy that all the material in both bodies are basically vaporized into this molten material, and it expands out far greater than the actual size of the bodies together, and sort of creates this like donut shaped sort of hot glowing vapor. So and the theory is that most planets may have experienced this at some point in their past.
Yeah, I think the little information that I was hearing about it was that for example, like the Earth may have been in that kind of state for a little bit too, and that was very interesting.
Yeah. So, and the article I read said that, a planet the size of Earth would probably be in that state for about 100 years before things start to cool down and then it collects back together into a solid mass, or maybe two masses, such as a moon and a planet. So just very interesting, and something that, since it is a new concept, it's not something that we've seen depicted in, films or games before. And I don't know if it's something that we'll explore in Gears of Eden, but it's definitely something that I was, thinking about and was inspired by, and, we'll see if anything comes of it later on.
No, that's very interesting. I mean, just even hearing about it right now, just the 100 years seems so short in terms of, like a galactic scale. Yeah, and I love hearing about that kind of stuff, because it really just gets your brain kind of rolling, and just starts cranking, and you start getting new thoughts and stuff. So it's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. And then another bit of inspiration I had this week was really looking at, we posted a new video recently, and we only have 3 videos on our channel right now, because we're just getting to a point of the game where I feel like we can produce videos somewhat regularly.
Start showing it off to people.
We got more content coming in. We have more to show off. And, so we have this video that we did last year in September, and we've done 2 more videos recently. And this week I just went and looked back at that first video and compared it to what we have now. And I was just really amazed at the progress that we've made in that time. And just, there's so much in the game. Like, everything just looks better, feels better. There's, so much more mechanics involved. And, we actually had a user on Reddit that had pointed that out to us. He's saying, he was very generous in his compliments, and just saying, like, wow, you guys have made a lot of progress since that first video. And that's what, inspired me to go back and look. And just looking at that and seeing what we've accomplished, it made me feel really good about what we're doing, and like how much progress we've made as a team. So, and it's also like really good when the thing that you're working on actually inspires you, because usually it's the opposite. It's usually, it becomes this thing that you're just working on constantly, and it's a lot of hard work, and, worrying about trying to grow the audience. Yeah. So, like, actually being able to look back and see the path we've been through, it really has been inspiring, and that's been really great. And then, the last thing is, we've talked about this a little bit, but we've all been sort of doing internal tests this week, and it's been really great to see people on the team getting into the game and playing, and sort of posting their comments and feedback. And like, people seem to be like, there's not much to do, but everyone has had like a positive interaction with the game, I think. And we've kind of had some good conversations just come out of that gameplay experience. So like, all these things have sort of worked together just to like help me feel inspired, and help me feel like we're actually making progress and on the right track. So it's been a good week in that regard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't personally know that exact feeling you're talking about, but I can definitely feel, and I know someone like, Eric, when you're having to write your stories and all that stuff, and something you have to continuously work on, it can be hard to find your inspiration from the stuff you're working on, right?
For me, actually, that is not an issue.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think about what I'm writing basically all day. It's actually a really rewarding exercise for me.
That's awesome.
The hardest part actually is just the sitting down and typing out what you're writing.
Yeah, just kind of like being able to externalize it.
Yes. That's actually exactly it. Well, there's this problem so many writers have. I wish I could like show like this image that I found like that described it perfectly. It's like you have in your mind the perfect paragraph to describe what you're trying to describe. Mm-hmm. Like, it's practically poetry the way you're describing it. But then you sit down in front of the computer and you're like, I'm going to type this out. And it's garbage. And it's a necessary part of like the drafting process to have that first just go through of it. But yeah, it just externalizing it is so hard.
Yeah.
I remember when we first started writing dialogue. I'll get to more of this later, but when I first started writing dialogue for this alpha, I had this sentence, this like line that I just loved in my head, and then I was trying to write it out one day, and I just couldn't get it. I wrote it like probably 20 different ways, just like, is this it? No, this isn't it. Scratch it all out. I could never get to what it was, and it still bugs me. Because there was always a thought like, what if I'd written it sooner? Like, what if I'd gotten out of bed when I had this thought and wrote it down?
We're getting like a pretty good collection of dialogue lines now, but every time I read through, like, I don't know if we'll even end up using it, but I already shared this with you guys, but the line about the rover figuring out he has solitaire installed on it just like makes me laugh every time.
Well, there's some like little just like very goofy lines I think we've all come up with
Yeah.
that are like, it might not be good to put it in there, but it makes us happy and we kind of want it to be in there.
Yeah.
Like you have your solitaire line. I have this line about Wheaties.
Yeah.
Instead of Wheaties, it's Wheatleys, named after Portal 2's character.
Yeah.
It's just the lamest pun that makes me so happy.
Yeah, who knows? Like, we'll probably convince ourselves to sneak them in there at some point. So, I mean, this is a great thing is that we have like this series of alpha tests just to like try ideas out. So,
Yes.
there's no bad lines right now, really.
Oh yeah, it's an alpha. We could just be like, we threw this thing in to see if you liked it, and if they don't like it, we can just take it out forever.
Oh, you hated that? Yeah, that was a throwaway. That was a throwaway line completely.
It was a test. It was a filler. We can easily. It was just stock hold. We can easily replace that.
Oh, wait, you like it? Oh, yeah. That was like the center's piece of
That's our
writing,
artistic
yeah.
vision.
Yeah, that was the thing Cooper was working on and rewrote 20 times. Yeah, you're welcome. And Cooper, so what's been your inspiration for this week?
We've been talking a lot internally about putting together a collection of short stories to sort of like increase audience engagement. So like as a reward for, we haven't really got to what it'd be rewarding for, but it'd be something to get the audience to feel more like involved with the project and knowing what the story kind of is, but not without telling them what the story actually is. These stories would be kind of like tertiary stories, like they'd involve characters who aren't central to the plot, but you might run into them as you're playing.
Yeah.
And so I've been reading a lot. I've read Brandon Sanderson's Words of Radiance and Chuck Wendig's Aftermath trilogy, which both feature these like interludes that do exactly that. Like it just describes the world a little bit. Like in one, there's these like a group of thieves who are dealing with the Empire's like fall and how like their business is growing, but the return they're getting on their investment is like dropping. And it's just these little stories that don't really mean anything on their own, but they paint a bigger picture of the world that they're set in for the reader. And I would love to be able to recapture that sort of intent with these short stories to help the players one day like come across an area and be like, oh my god, this is what they were talking about, and this is like the fallout from that event.
Yeah, kind of those things that really breathe life into the universe that you're creating.
Yes, without it being like taking like the main characters off the beaten path for 100 pages just to have this one little scene involving these characters who don't matter. You'll never see again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and I'm looking forward to seeing that come together. And it just gives us a way to like do some world building without sort of giving the details away of the main character. And like Eric was saying, like we want to get more audience engagement, and we want to be able, like the game is going to be in production for a long time, so actually getting a complete game for people to play is not going to be, we'll have these alpha tests, but in terms of being able to give something back to the audience, we're trying to think of things like, doing this podcast and doing these short stories and, having some more art available. So we really want to just help, build that audience and build the world that Gears of Eden takes place in and share that.
And it's, so also something, it put things in perspective for you when you're having to compare your game from one of the first videos that you made to now, and you can feel, a huge accomplishment from that. But it's also, something where we have to keep in mind that time is actually a resource we need to, keep on top of and make sure we can, not let the kind of void between us and the audience go for too long. So that's why our focus has been trying to produce more content, to kind of really not necessarily hold people over, but kind of give a satisfaction and something people can always come back to. And I think that's great.
Yeah, and I think we're really trying to target an audience right now that is interested in seeing the story of a game come together and being a part of that process and, sort of sharing it in that adventure and in that journey with us, and doing it together. Like, we want feedback from people and we want their input. And so we're trying to do this, in a way that's more interactive. So any sort of content that we can give back and add some value to our process, I think that's something very meaningful, and hopefully people will get a lot out of it.
Absolutely. So now it's up to me, kind of discuss what I've been using for my inspiration for this week. And it's kind of a twofold thing. The first is something everyone can relate to. Is I recently saw Guardians of the Galaxies, Volume 2.
So jealous.
Right?
Eric cannot relate to that.
You can't.
I cannot relate to that. I would like to.
You'll be able to soon, right?
I've heard such good things. I'm seeing it tomorrow. I'm really excited.
And yeah, so Guardians of the Galaxies is been a very good movie. I enjoyed it a lot. Some people have been kind of discussing whether it was better or worse than the first movie. Me personally, I think it's maybe like just right below it. But I think that's great for a sequel, since usually sequels can have a bad rap of being significantly worse than their first movie. So just the fact that it was able to keep on message. The movie was very focused. I felt like every character was used so splendidly, and there's some really good heartfelt moments that I didn't exactly expect from comedy like Guardians of the Galaxy. So
from what I hear, it actually discusses some pretty human topics. Beyond just how do we save the galaxy this time?
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it kind of does that through kind of the personal character relationships that they develop in the movie. So and it is specifically because of those human relationships and those human conditions that you're talking about, Eric. It made the movie so much more relatable and so much more personal to me that it was kind of one of those movies where it kind of impacts you for a while. And I'm trying to keep spoilers out of this for anyone who's listening, but
I'm very appreciative.
and the people here included. It was just it was one of those movies where I almost kind of let myself go, and I was able to kind of enjoy the ride. And I find those movies are very hard to find. So, just kind of it was kind of one of those experiences where it kind of gets me thinking, especially about what kind of projects I'm working on, like Years of Eden. So it just kind of put things in perspective for me, and kind of got my engines revving.
I'll tell you, I really enjoyed the movie as well, and for me, and it may have just been the audience I saw it with and the interaction, but I found myself laughing a lot in this movie, and I thought there was a lot more humor than I expected, and for me, it just seemed more funny than the first one. But again, it could have just been my one-off experience at the theater. But I thought it was really good at sort of folding the humor in, but also, like you said, it sort of has these sort of important messages it wants to convey as well. And then again, it's all about this sort of imperfect family that's come together and is working together and learning how to be a team. So, I think we have a lot of challenges in our story with Gears of Eden because we don't have any human characters in it. And so, we have that challenge even more fold of bringing together these, machines and these objects that, don't have the normal a range of expressions or emotions that we're used to seeing in human faces and stuff, and really making sure that we create characters that are sympathetic and that engage the audiences and that that people identify with, even though they're these mechanical
the way I've been
bodies.
thinking about it as I try to write it, does it seem right to refer to them as almost incomplete humans, in how they view the world? Because they're definitely not human, but mentally, there is something at least attempting at humanity within them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how I've seen it. And,
Yep.
and the other thing I look at it is I also see it allows us more freedom than you could do with just the traditional human, in space, for instance. There's plenty of games about humans in space and exploring and all that kind of stuff, but I think the angle of the robots and the rovers and kind of the angles that we have to approach from there allows us to explore things and try different things that may or may not work, but it gives us that kind of creativity that I think we're all looking for.
Yeah, and I think it gives us sort of a creative way to critique parts of humanity, but doing it, sort of in this external, perspective. So, just the contrast of comparing the machines with the humans. Like you said, they're very much alike in some ways. So, we can use that contrast to really, point out a lot of interesting juxtapositions when we're looking at the two. So I think that'll be a lot of fun when we get into that.
Absolutely. And so the other thing that was kind of inspired me was actually very more personal. It was a friend I was having a discussion with earlier this week. And we were just kind of talking about, our life and decisions that we were making, like people our age do. And she was kind of just going over her dreams and hopes and her decision to finally become a brewmaster. She loves beer and finds the whole process and fascinating. And just hearing her talk about it, it was kind of one of those situations where it was pumping me up too, because when you're able to kind of connect with a person, you just see how excited they are, you get excited for them too. So just seeing someone try to be happy for a goal that they're going for, just it made me think about the goals that we're going for and what we're trying to shoot for, and it's got me excited.
Yeah, there's something like just innately enjoyable seeing someone like actually having fun with the concept or an idea.
Mm-hmm.
I just watched a video today. It doesn't matter like what the video is about because it's so nerdy. But I was watching this video and there was like, it started out really like annoyed with what was going on, but as they like adapted more to it, it was like they were having so much fun with what was happening. And it was really nice to see that transition and then like the payoff of it.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing for anyone, is just trying to find stuff that you want to do. I think it's great when people find joy in anything.
Well, yeah, it's hard to figure out what you want to try to do, but then it's also like really hard to like take actual practical steps forward and accomplish it. Like, we're trying to make this game and it's a ton of work, and there was been times in the past where we hit walls where we could have like just quit and given up, but we've been able to endure and stick with it. And so like, now we have that experience of being able to look back and see how far we've come. And like in, other projects I've done, like independent film, like just getting a project put together and complete is a success in itself, because it's so much work and there's so many difficulties that come up along the way. And like a lot of people do just like quit when it gets hard. So it is inspiring when you see someone actually pursuing what they, are passionate about and what, they want to accomplish with their creative goals or whatever it might be, and not just like giving up on them or giving in, but like really sticking it out through those hard parts. So hopefully we continue to do that and we've reached the goal that we have in mind.
Yeah, so it's it's always important for anyone to remember, as long as you're taking steps towards your goal, I mean, you're on the right path. And that's the thought process that we take when we're working on our game. So yeah, those are some of the things that we use for inspiration on a day-to-day basis. It's not necessarily motivation, but it helps us get our creative juices flowing and get our minds on the right track. So before we sign off, let's talk a little bit about the games we've been playing. This is to give you guys some insight into what we like and what we use to relax. Sledge, what have you been playing this week?
All right, so this week I did check out Injustice 2. Did you guys get into? It is out. Did you guys get into?
I've wanted to play it, but I haven't like known it was out.
Did you play the first one?
Yes.
Did you like it? Not like it?
I liked it for what it was. Like I didn't like it in the way where like, oh, this is the best thing ever. But it was a lot of fun, and it was a fun take on the DC universe.
It's a straight like fighter, right?
Yeah,
it's a straight fighter. I mean, I think I'm more interested in the story and the characters because, like, I also got Mortal Kombat X, or I don't know, Mortal Kombat X or Mortal Kombat 10 when it came out, and like I think I've just decided I'm past the phase of like really practicing hard on getting all the combos down and stuff. So
so you've given up on your pro career for Mortal Kombat X?
Yeah. I'm like, I just want to put it on. It's really like I just want to put it on easy mode and like
totally
like just get through the AI fights and like get through the little story.
Oh my god! So I heard the story that the new like Marvel versus Capcom game, it's gonna have this mode for people who don't want to learn the combos, like who just want to like go off their ability to fight rather than like their memorization skills. People are mad about that.
Oh man!
And I'm like, oh my god, I'll finally love this game. I'm so excited. I was like, oh, this is great. Oh no.
Yeah, I'm totally fine if they just port over like the mobile controls of the Injustice 2, where you just like, you've got like 3 attacks and that's it.
I would love like a Marvel fighting game like the Super Smash Brothers games, where it's all like directional.
So, all right. So my question is, how exactly is the Joker supposed to beat Superman?
Well, he has this little knife, you see.
Oh, okay.
I only remember from the first one, but he didn't have a whole big arsenal, but he still like pulled it off, I guess.
Interesting.
Sledge, how about Injustice 2?
Well, I'm not far enough into it that the Joker has reemerged yet. I'm at the very beginning, and it's like I'm playing as you play as Batman when you start out, and so I fought Cyborg, and I took care of him pretty easily, and then I got my butt kicked by Wonder Woman. So I'm like now back in the tutorials learning the combos.
It's so hard. I don't know how people are able to like get super into fighting games. Like, and not in the sense that they seem bad, because like I look at them and they're really good, well-made games. I just can't do it. Like, I like turn-based RPGs where I can take my time.
But yeah, so that's pretty much the only thing the gameplay wise that I've been involved in this week, other than of course playing a little bit of Gears.
And we'll talk about that in a second. Eric, what have you been playing this week?
So I've been playing Gears of Eden, but there's been the new Overwatch event for the anniversary, which has some amazing skins that I absolutely have to get. So I've been trying to play it, but I'm on this little laptop that can no longer handle Overwatch.
It can't handle the anniversary event. It's just too big.
It cannot handle it. I was trying to play with Nick, one of the other writers on the project, and I just kept crashing. And I was so bummed because it's my favorite game. I need to get a real computer. But since I can't play Overwatch, I've been playing Medal of Honor Allied Assault from like 2005.
Oh, so the laptop can
so
handle
fun.
that?
It can handle the heck out of 2005. It's so fun though. This game is like I thought I would like play it for like the nostalgia of it because I played when I was little, but it's just like it's really hard and fast paced, but not too fast paced. It's what I like miss shooters being, honestly.
Yeah, it just like hits that sweet spot.
Yeah, like there's very few gaming things from like a grumpy old man, but like just shooter campaigns always bum me out, because I grew up with like Medal of Honor and No One Lives Forever, which are just two insanely good games.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking of all the games back then that I you're right. There's kind of that weird, that weird learning curve as we were kind of growing up, and like those games probably were like the sweet spot of enjoyability. Well, that's great. So the games I've been playing. I'll talk about the first one, and then the one that we've all been playing in common, Gears of Eden. We can have a little discussion on that. I've been a little light on my games, but I was actually playing some VR with some friends, and we were playing a couple of them. There's one called Audio Shield, which is a pretty simple, fun game, and I think is a good beginner game. But the other one, which I think a good number of people probably heard of, is Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes.
I still want to play that, so we gotta play.
Yeah, we'll.
That's the bomb defusal thing.
Yes, this is the bomb defusal.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one you refused to play with me.
Yeah, that one.
So yeah, and honestly, it was, and honestly, the Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes is a phenomenal like party game. It's it's very very quick, very like thought intensive. Between the two teams, basically, which is the person who's defusing the bomb and like looking at it and telling people what's going on, and they're essentially blindfolded. But with VR, you can actually put the headset over your eyes, and that's what you're looking at. And the other part of the team, which is the bomb diffusers, and basically the game sets it up where basically you can just go on the website, and it'll give you the manual that you can look through, and it's it's a very very complex guide that will tell you how to defuse all the different modules it can go through. There's a Morse code one. There's there's like a Simon Says pattern recognition kind of thing. Wire crossings and all that.
Wait, so are the people that are like looking in the manual, are they in VR also?
No,
Just like looking at a manual?
no. They usually look at the
The future's
screen,
amazing.
right? Yeah, they put on the VR headset and they're basically just kind of on a computer desk.
Like in front of a computer?
Yeah, and they're just kind of going. They have
Feels
to open
so real.
Yeah, they have to open up the browser. But it's
And it simulates internet.
yeah, but it's slow. Like it's using actual Internet Explorer. So
Netscape.
yeah. Yeah, using some AOL connection too. So those are the different difficulties you can go by as your internet connection.
Yeah, that's the
We're
next
just
step. You could
misleading
also
Sledge right now.
the people defusing the bomb, like with the manual, they could be set in a different time. So maybe like
Right.
in 1995, trying to help you in 2017.
Yeah. So they're just looking at a screen with the manual, and I find it's a very great communication tool, or kind of like it builds up communication between people very well, because usually you have about like 5 minutes for the bomb, and it could be anywhere from like 3 to 6 to like 12 like modules that you're having to disarm at the same time. And once you find that you put yourself in that situation, you can find that the communication between you guys is very straight to the point. So it was a fun party game, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. But the other game, Gears of Eden. This is my first time in a long while. Man, I want to say it's probably my first. It's been my first time in a good year and a half.
Maybe at least a year.
At least a year. Just actually having my hands on the game. A lot of the things I've been looking at have just been kind of like pictures and videos and stuff from what you guys have been gathering. But this is my first time with it hands on. I almost kind of had that bad inclination of reaching for my my Xbox controller, because that's what I use for some games, because they allow the controller and it feels better. And we have.
What are you saying?
I'm saying we need to add controller support for Gears of Eden.
I would be so happy to get controller support, and so that's definitely gonna happen at some point.
Yeah, look forward to it, guys. But yes,
Eventually.
eventually. So, been playing Gears of Eden. It's man. I don't know what it is, man. But when you finally kind of get your hands on something that you've been looking at from like its stages of infancy, sometimes it can blow you away.
Yes.
Awesome.
Like there's that whole asteroid that's just floating around you the entire time.
So I'm going to kind of gush over the game a little bit here, but the product you guys are going to get with the asteroid is the asteroid in particular. It is a lot different than what I was first introduced to. And this is just kind of a little behind the scenes for you guys, but the very first build of this game was pretty much a white room on a platform. If you can imagine from that to going to an actual asteroid is a pretty big leap. But our first asteroid was pretty spherical, pretty shallow, not really much depth to it, and it's been
We called it the potato.
yeah.
Like at the time that was like its name.
And so it's been kind of growing as we've been working on the game, and the asteroid from then to now is just like there's an astronomical difference between them, and it feels so much more much more alive, much more organic, and just feels so much more natural. Just playing and driving around it.
Well, Sledge was talking about its synestia, as it's called.
Sure.
Well, that idea of like things crashing into each other, I love that concept because it adds this like sense of physicality that doesn't really like exist in our minds about space.
Yeah.
When I think about space, it's just this floaty thing where things are really far apart and dark, but things are just like hitting each other all the time. And I love how the current asteroid totally looks like two things that have either run into each other or have like broken off from each other.
Cool. Yeah.
In like recently though, like it feels very physical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that too. Just having something, there near you that's out of reach and it's moving around with you. Like it just gives a different feel to the environment. So that's awesome to hear.
And then there's like tunnels in it, like that I assume like are caused by like denser comets like flying through the asteroid and tearing holes through. It's this really, I like it so much.
Well, I have a confession. Like one of you during the gameplay this week mentioned something about like the tunnel at this specific location, and I had actually not been in that particular tunnel before. So I went in there, and it's actually like this really big tunnel that that you guys are talking about. So like that was my first time driving through it, and it was pretty neat because I sort of like play test builds in the editor, more than you guys have access to, and so I feel like I'm pretty familiar with everything. But the fact that like you guys found something that I wasn't aware of, and then I went and did it, like that was a very cool experience. And like, just sort of navigating through that tunnel, not really knowing where it's going or where it comes out. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's not a lot of gameplay in the alpha yet, so just those little experiences that you have are pretty neat.
Yeah, and it's and you're right. It's having those shared experiences, something fresh that you're able to kind of experience with the group, and yeah, it makes it very fun.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's kind of something we're going. This isn't about the alpha itself, but I think that's something we're going for, like with the story itself as well. Like, we don't want to just be like blatant about what the story means or whatever. We want it to be something kind of that like you can think about and discuss with others. Because like some of the best reading experiences I've had were like stories where I didn't really understand the whole thing, but this person has this piece of it and I have this piece to offer. And we're able to like combine them into this really fun discussion about it.
Yeah, and I think part of how we're thinking about doing that is, we're not going to just have cut scenes that tell everyone the exact same story, but we're going to use the environment to tell the story. So, you might find something in a tunnel somewhere that gives you a little nugget of the story that someone else doesn't find. And so, that's going to lead to those types of conversations you're talking about, where people are sharing their experiences and sort of figuring out this bigger world and this bigger story together. So, it'll be a ways until we're at that level of storytelling and implementation, but that's going to be pretty amazing.
But it's definitely something that we're excited to be showing you guys, and yeah. So that's going to wrap it up. This has been the Reaching Eden podcast. Thank you, Sledge.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Ah, shucks. Thank you too. I want the bigger one so the audience likes me.
And this is Michael. Thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks for listening, guys. If you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you and what you think of our very first podcast. You can contact us and find out more about Gears of Eden at www.gearsofeden.com or on Twitter or Facebook. Oh, and if you're interested in finding out more about anything we've discussed today, we're going to be throwing a link dump in the blog entry for this podcast on our website. All right, we'll be back in a couple of weeks with a new edition of Reaching Eden. Until then, this is the Gears of Eden development team, and we're Reaching Eden. We hope you join us.